Hello and welcome back to a new Rage Gaming video. My name is Hollow and I just want to start this video off with a quick thank you. Last week I made my very first Monster Hunter video for the channel ever, and you guys were really welcoming and very supportive when I had no idea if, hey, a new voice or face would be accepted. You made me feel very welcome, guys. Thank you. The video in question was actually all about the upcoming Monster Hunter game for Switch, Rise. You might just have heard of it, where we were looking at every detail and update of real worth all in one video from the month of November. It was really fun and really cool, but I just want to say again a genuine thank you for being so great in response to my first video. That aside and out the way though, I do want to talk some more Rise today while we wait for some incoming weapon showcase videos. As you might know, they had us vote on the next weapon showcase in 3 separate votes. The winners of each vote were Hunting Horn, Charge Blade, and the Bow. I'm looking forward to whichever we get to see first, but since my first video last week, I've actually now managed to complete the Iceborne story and beat Shara for the first time, which was brilliant. During my time streaming and playing through all of that, I've had a lot of questions about the previous Monster Hunter games in regards to Rise, and about how many of you guys have actually played the old gen games, and how many of you are new hunters like me in World. Rise is obviously aimed to be a ideal mix of the new World style and the old previous monster generation. Like GU was, we're going to be back on the Switch for this one though, and right now it seems like we're only going to be able to play this on the Switch, with what could be the best take on the old style brought forward will only be on one single platform. So simply put, due to that, Rise is not going to have nearly as big a player base or make anywhere near as much money compared to say World did. And I just think that's a really big shame when you stop and think about it, that so many people are going to miss out on what looks like such a good game because they just don't have the console that it runs on. Monster Hunter was first brought to the West in a major impactful way with World, right? After sure, it had dipped its toes through Monster Hunter 3 on the Wii and Wii U a few years prior. But World was what made the game series accessible more than ever through a variety of platforms, instead of just the Wii and the Wii U, or say a 3DS, or just the PSP. It was on multiple major consoles and the PC. And on top of that, it updated the genre of game too, with new mechanics core to the gameplay that give you more control of your character. Super helpful and forgiving mechanics like, say, the mantles are just 2 obvious examples. I've actually had conversations with people who couldn't enjoy World at all, or at least long term, because they just much prefer the old style of the series at that. So to me, Rise feels made for that type of person who couldn't get into World, but it's been made more appealing to them while still bringing this series forward with big new mechanics and bringing important ones like, say, the radio wheel from World. Anyway, no matter what way you slice this, this is a Monster Hunter game that will have a smaller player base and therefore smaller success than it could have, than it should have, compared to, say, if we could play it on more than just one platform, on more than just the Switch. And despite the more hardcore nature of the old Monster Hunter games, I actually wouldn't blame that for the reason as to why the West was less interested in the series until recently. I actually think it was more about the lack of ability to play and try Monster Hunter because there was lower interest in portable console gaming in the West overall. Take the PSP. In Japan, that was the top selling console 3 years in a row, 2008, 9 and 10, while the PS2 had way more success in the West than the PSP ever did there. And what could you actually play Monster Hunter on if you were a console gamer in the West? Well, you had the PS2 and the Wii and the Wii U. So the only time I could have played Monster Hunter on a console myself while growing up would have been on the PlayStation 2, and at that point as a kid I didn't even know it existed. So truly, until World, through the PS4 and PC, I never really had a chance to play Monster Hunter. I didn't have the consoles that it was on, and in my head I thought Monster Hunter had finally come to the West in its new, more accessible way, so we can play all future games on an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Switch or a PC. More than likely you have a way to play it. I thought whatever they bring out in the future would be on multiple platforms for sure, but here we are with Rise on its way, and it's only on the Switch. So a big question in this video to you guys is, do you have a Switch? Are you going to buy one for Rise? Are you someone who's going to miss Rise just because it's on the Switch? I'd really appreciate you letting me know in the comments so I can see what it's actually like for you guys, just to give me an idea. Obviously, I'm excited to play Rise and I'm good to go because I already had a Switch because I bought it a few months after its release. That's obviously not the case for everyone. Some people understandably can't afford to buy a console for just one game. But I do think it's important for me to just slow down for a second and just say that Rise is still going to be a smash hit. It's still going to be huge in its home region of Japan and the East overall, whereas here in the West, its success will be measured entirely by how many people even have a Switch in the first place. And the Switch is probably the most successful and relevant portable console we've ever had. So it's still going to be great. It's still going to be big. It's just a shame because it could be so much more if it was given the opportunity to be on other platforms. Recently, there was an interview with Nintendo about Rise and its possible success as a game a few weeks back. They believe the release of Rise will actually generate new sales for other Monster Hunter games like World that are more accessible compared to just Rise on the Switch. This knock-on effect was referred to as the announcement effect. An announcement or a release of one game always generates more sales for other games in that series while the interest is high due to a new release. They think that if people can't play Rise because they don't have a Switch, then they're much more likely to buy a different Monster Hunter game on a platform they actually have, or return to one they already have. But I think I just lament the fact that Monster Hunter hasn't been more widely available on major platforms for the West. For all of the series, I just wish Rise was releasing on more consoles and PC. Now, having said all of that, I think we should honestly acknowledge, if we look at Rise, it's obviously designed and developed for well, it's pretty weak strength of the Switch. You compare it to, say, the current gen of Xbox or PS5 or, of course, PC, the standard for next gen is way higher than what Rise is, visually at least. Whereas this visual style makes total sense on the Switch, or portable consoles as a whole. So considering that, if we did imagine Rise coming to another platform, what would it be? I think right now I could only see it on the PC. We run emulators to play old games all the time, right? And I could imagine a port to PC would be comparable to that. Only playable at a capped resolution and frame rate, but it's possible and acceptable. What do you think? As far as Monster Hunter goes overall, I just want to see it on more platforms and have more options overall. I want everyone to have a chance to play this great series and not be walled out by the awkward platform that it's on. It only truly happened with World for the first time, and it almost feels like a step backwards after World to just be back on one platform and just the Switch. Another big question is, what's next after Rise? Are they currently working on the next generation of Monster Hunter for next-gen gaming? Absolutely, right? Definitely. With Rise as the release in between World and next-gen Monster Hunter, considering, Rise is part of the 5th generation of Monster Hunter games, and they'll have been working on Rise for years while we were all playing World, something for next-gen definitely has to be coming next, and they're definitely going to be working on it right now. I talked to Josh about this, and he thinks that we'll have a Monster Hunter game every year like we've been seeing recently. Rise being the 2021 release, and then likely the next generation of Monster Hunter coming in maybe 2022. That's a really nice timeline, but worst case, we would see some sort of G-Rank edition for Rise in 2022, and then 23 would then be the next gen. But hopefully we don't have to wait that long though. And you know what would be absolutely incredible whenever that comes? Crossplay. Monster Hunter with crossplay between platforms would be a gift. Imagine if I, as a PC player, could play World with someone on a PS4. Such a simple and definitely possible concept. But will we ever see that? Anyway, I've definitely bounced around topics and thoughts here. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion and speculation today. Let me know what you think about it. I'd really appreciate the opinion of both someone new like me who just started playing in World, but also, obviously, the older players who have actually been playing this series for years on the different platforms. Let me know your thoughts. Until next time, though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and I'll see you in the next one.